tournaments recently. Do you remember your first tournament?
Yeah, I do. For sure I do. Of course I do.
Do you remember what it was and how you felt leading into that?
Yeah, so I did, I believe it was an SAU in Montreal. And I'd been doing jiu-jitsu for about 3 months. And I just remember I did my first fight. I'd come from like a rugby background. So my coach had just told me like, okay, just like tackle them, you know, basically a double leg, right? So like my go-to move was like a blast double for the tournament. And I just remember finishing my first fight. You know how it is a white belt, like you white knuckle everything. You're like all adrenaline and tunnel vision. And I finished the fight and I actually like went off to the side and I cried because like I couldn't feel my hands anymore. And I was like, I can't fight again. I'm done. That was it. That was horrible. But then obviously like, you know, I like came to and then was like, okay, let's do that again. Went through the exact same experience. And then I lost in the finals against, actually she's a local girl, Luciana Marcos. She trains in Montreal, super nice.
After that first experience, did you know you were going to kind of stick to this? Was it like love at first sight type of thing, or did it take a couple tournaments to get into it?
I mean, I definitely didn't think I was going to like pursue this like professionally, but I also like, that's the thing with jiu-jitsu tournaments, like I actually still feel the same amount of anxiety and nerves I felt on the first tournament. I feel them like today competing, but you kind of learn to like embrace the process and like overcome that, and then after it's just like, or even during the match, it's kind of like the biggest feeling of like, I don't know, euphoria to like kind of conquer those feelings and come out on the other side. So in that manner it's like pretty addicting, but you know, it's always that roller coaster of like, why am I doing this, this is horrible, okay, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah, so that's perfect, because it kind of leads into the next question here, which is the ADCC Trials, in my opinion, other than obviously ADCC itself, is like probably the hardest tournament, especially no-gi, to win. How do you feel, like when you know you have a stacked division and a lot of fights coming up, how do you feel before you start, like before the first match?
Yeah.
What's going through your head?
So before the first match for me is the worst, right? Because once you fought once, then you're kind of more in the zone, and you realize that it's like not as bad as you've like built it up in your head to be. Like while it's still like stressful during the match, like in the end it's just like another human being and you're grappling like the same way you do at the gym, just with higher stakes. So always like after the first match I feel better. I have like a bunch of mental cues that I try to remind to calm myself down. You know, I try to think of like the matching components. So instead of just thinking about how like intimidating the matches with someone, I'll just think, okay, well let's run through the match. Like if I pull guard and they're on top, do I think they're gonna pass my guard? No. Okay, so that's not fine. They won't pass my guard. Maybe I won't sweep, but they won't pass my guard. Not so bad. And then if I get on top, like, am I scared of their attacks? No, it's okay, because in the end, like, I roll with killers every day, and like, I'm like used to being on top and whatnot. So you kind of like break it down into segments, and then also remind yourself, like you were mentioning, like having stacked brackets. Well, in the end, like if there's like, let's say 10 people whose names kind of like intimidate me in the bracket, I also remind myself, I'm like, I don't have to fight all of them at this tournament. I'm gonna fight like, at most I'm gonna fight half of them, you know, and like maybe even less than that. So you just kind of like, it seems like this like gargantuan task, but you just have to break it down to like, okay, one match at a time, and then like one exchange at a time. Like, okay, she's in my half guard, what do I have to do in this one moment? And then that helps me a lot.
So really just trying to stay, like you said, in the moment.
Yeah.
Thinking about one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Does your mindset change once you get to like the finals, right before the finals? How are you thinking before that match?
So the finals is like maybe when I have like the best mindset, because then it's just like there's only one match, there's not like something ahead of that, so you can kind of like just know you can give it your all. Like you don't have to think about like burning yourself out, you don't have to think about like emptying the gas tank for later. I think the semifinals is the one I'm like the most nervous for, because it's like you're almost there, and then even if you win and you have a war, well, you still have to do it like one more time and for all the marbles, you know? So the finals is actually kind of when I feel my best.
Yeah. Well, obviously you qualified, congratulations, that's amazing.
Sorry, I'll just correct that actually. So because the women's only have eight people per bracket, I still have to win the West Coast Trials to get my ticket to the actual ADCC. Yeah. So I basically get my trip paid to the West Coast Trials with like the #1 seeding, but unfortunately, because there's only 8 women per division instead of 16 like the men, you don't actually get the ticket to ADCC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, perfect. Again, leading into the next question here, as far as the women's divisions in ADCC go, that last one, they had some of the most exciting fights
Yeah.
in the entire tournament. How is there only 2 divisions of 8? What do you think? Do you think there's enough to get
Yeah.
16, or do you think there's enough to get another division in there, like another weight class?
Yeah.
What do you?
All
what
of
do you
the
think they can do? All of the above.
Yeah, I mean, like, I easily, like, you know, I get it maybe like 20 years ago if there was like less women on the scene and that's why they made that decision, I'm not sure. But today, like, I mean, you see it like across like all grappling events, like the women's divisions are competitive. It's not like, you know, you feel like at Flow Grappling's who's number 1. I always use as an example, like both the heavyweight division and the 115 division, like everyone belonged there, you know, all the matches were competitive, they were exciting, like the women were like putting on a show, and like it didn't feel like they had to get like 2 champions and then fill out a bracket, you know? So the fact that there's only like, not only just 2 weight classes, but then on top of that, like only 8 women per weight class, like I think easily we could do like 3 or even 4 weight classes with 16 women a division. And I'm hoping that's the change that's gonna happen in the future.
Yeah.